The hardest thing usually is to come up with what to do and to invent a mini plot. If you have never done this before, you may think, there it is, the ultimate freedom of expression. But why is it then that it's so hard to get an idea? It is better to begin with defining the restrictions you'll take into account while designing a plot. The first thing to understand is that we are not creating a short film. Follow the rhythm and the number of plot actions. Logo animation is most commonly implemented on sites, in mobile apps, or in presentations. It is rarely used in explanatory videos. Don't try to say too much. It means that you have 1 to 6 seconds to display a logo and tell some mini nano story. We usually break animation into logic pieces in our work. To understand what this means, follow the rhythm. 1, 2, 3. Now this one. 1, 2, 3. And this one. 1, 2, 3. Medium-length animations usually have 3 eloquent, so to say, bars or events. This number is enough to fit into the timing and tell a little story about a company. You can cut down the number to 2, like here, to save time and make animation more elegant. You can show everything with 1 event to keep the animation tone neutral. On the other hand, you can add another event to display it longer and keep the viewer's attention. As you can see, logo animation is not that eventful, and we only benefit from it since we have more time to polish each event. As an example, let's think about how we could animate Instagram's logo. Not this icon, but the text. What is the point of Instagram? First of all, a person taking a picture, posting it to the feed, uploading the photo, likes appearing, many likes, satisfied users, some kind of seamless transition to the text. That's the whole story. Why it isn't good enough for our task. A character. A logo doesn't imply a corporate character or style in which this character could be drawn. Who is this character? What style is it depicted in? What gender or race is it? How old is this character? What is it wearing? Why is this character alone? If you get an order to create an animated logo, each extra thing you add may look inappropriate. Try to avoid changing the existing design with your own drawings. A device with an application interface. The interface contains a lot of details. They are visual garbage that will be hard to display neatly given our timeline and a limited number of events. Besides, the interface will probably change. The applications may look different on different devices. Idea problems. Negative stereotypes. Everyone wants a lot of likes, but it isn't the company's goal to provide them. The goal is to allow people to share impressions with friends and capture bright moments of life. You can't safely say that likes bring joy. Technical problems. There is no clear way to make a smooth transition from all that to the logo. And there's one more thing. In such circumstances, we usually try to make everything that happens with the logo to stay within the frame, without crossing its borders. If it is an intro to a show, it is always clear how and where it will be published. But if it's a logo animation, it can be used in many different ways. And you better be ready for that. I mean, these frames where hands are crossing the border of the screen. How to narrow down the plot and still keep the essence. Let's remove everything we won't need for sure. First, get rid of the character. It is too risky to interfere with the original logo design. Now we need to choose what we want to be talking about here. Taking photos or getting likes. Likes are more of a hype thing. Photography is slightly more serious in its nature. Both topics are good, but let's stick with photography for now. For example, a camera appears, takes a couple of shots, and disappears, being replaced by a logo. The logo is lettering. The simplest thing that you can do is to reveal it with lines and additional swooshes. The next question is how to portray the camera, maintaining the corporate identity and making it still look like a camera. Everything has already been done for us. We'll use the existing application icon. So the camera appears, takes a shot, disappears, revealing the lettering. We've captured the essence, kept everything within the frame, and haven't changed the design much. Done. The second important aspect, often forgotten by beginner motion designers, is that you make an animation for real people. Each company has a tone of voice, the audience they focus on, and the product itself. Express yourself gently, be kind to the brand you are working with, and don't go too far with black humor. If this is your personal project though, you can neglect this. It may seem like nonsense, but I'll tell you a story that might teach you something. Once, together with our students, we were invited to participate in a collaboration dedicated to cute animals and logos. I got this logo and was told that it was an event management company. What thoughts did I have when I saw the logo? I want to do something wild. Wild goat. Say no more. What else was I thinking then? Events mean parties, dancing. I like dancing, but I'm not good at it. It doesn't matter. My goat will dance. What wild dance moves do I know? Listen incrementally. Small jumps. This is quite wild as well. I want to be able to do so. What is the result? Let the goat go wild, falling to its knees and breaking a branch above its head. I have 1 day. No, that will be too difficult.
A few moments later.
All in all, done. Let's add increasing shaking to emphasize this is a party. Send this to the collaboration organizer. Perfect. Send this to the client. Wrong. This should never be published. What did I miss? I didn't visit the company's site to see what they really do. They arrange marriage proposals in a picturesque lighthouse. In what segment does the client work? Premium class services. Definitely not for everyone. Everything is white and gold. I didn't check who their clients are. Here they are. Do the company's clients expect to spend time as I suggested them in my animation? No way. How did the story end? We agreed with the client that we would keep the shot in the collaboration but wouldn't publish it on Instagram. It was their main platform to attract new customers. Luckily, it was a collaboration, not a real commercial project. So the tone of voice, the audience, and the product, these are all the things you should always gather all the information about before you get started. You should understand that a company may make fun of itself, but it will hardly ever make fun of its customers. These are totally different things. All questions related to humor and plot twists unintended by the logo itself should be discussed and agreed with the client beforehand. Basically, these are the restrictions. Let's move on to the plot. What an idea can be based on. Metaphors, initially intended by a designer. A neutral display without any specific plot. An illustrated story covering a form of activity. Metaphors initially intended by a designer. If the task is to animate only what is already in the logo without adding anything big and introducing new meanings, this is your option. Almost every logo already has everything you need. Your task is to find out what the author wanted to convey. Sometimes everything is quite obvious, like with FedEx's or NASA's logo. In general, it looks like a typical logo of a state-owned company. It is round, it literally shows what a company does. Most of the time, it contains an abbreviation. You may also come across versions like this, but they are not popular for obvious reasons. That's what they write about their logo if you Google NASA logo. Let's analyze what it means to animate the original meaning, using their logo as an example. Look what we have. There's a trace from a rocket, maybe the rocket itself or a visualization of it leaving the atmosphere. There's also an orbiting satellite, and space, the actual place where everything is happening. We can design a minimalistic plot without any difficulties. Another example. What do you think this is? We did not get it straight away as well, but as soon as the designer told us that it was a private clinic, everything fell into place. Look, these are pills of different sizes. This thing looks like a stethoscope, only without this thing. We can use these elements separately and then display the remaining part of the lettering. For the purpose, you can add small additional details. like a notch here or a dividing line here. Besides, many are afraid of hospitals, so let's make our animation a little more welcoming and playful. For example, we'll toss the pills into the air, and then turn them into parts of the logo. In the end, as an additional emphasis, we can animate this bow here. I used a limb created with Character tool for it. As you can see, we almost did not alter the original logo designs. This must be your aim. If you want to animate everything using initially intended meaning, follow the steps below. Gather as much data about the company and its logo as possible. Ask the client what the logo symbolizes, why it looks like this, what metaphors are embedded in it. Next, think about how you can convey the maximum of information with a minimum of assets, similar to a notch on a pill. Try to work with the graphics the logo already has, adjusting it only when it's really necessary. This is all good, but what if a logo doesn't look interesting? What if it is just an icon or a company name written in a fancy way? In this case, a logo can be animated with simple tools that do not add specific meaning to the animation. We call this type of animation neutral interpretation. It might seem boring to you. Come on, where are the characters, framing, and editing? But in fact, 90% of cases require nothing more from a motion designer than to reveal the final shot of a video simply and elegantly. Or it may be a relaxed animation cycle for a site. It is important to do everything smoothly, elegantly, and pixel perfectly. These qualities are highly valued in this type of projects. For this type of animation, it is rather important that you know how to use a wide range of techniques to reveal and morph objects. Since you will mostly work with simple shapes and lines, the originality of your work will depend on how creatively you handle the simplest tools for animation. Here are some examples of what you can achieve using only standard transformations and line animation. Such animations don't have a plot as a rule, but have a certain mood. You can achieve it via the overall dynamics of a scene and emphasis on details, like this funny washcloth on the character, or with smooth and graceful movements on the lines like here. In case you need to create an animation in a similar style, the algorithm of actions gets notably easier for you. In other words, animate it in a way that seems most logical. If your logo consists of line parts, think about how to display them with trim path, like here. If your logo consists of many separate details, you can always simply animate its reveal on scale with oscillations. Here is another example of how you can use standard transformations to display the logo and slightly animate the character. Text logos. At first glance, it may seem that a text logo is a pain in the ass and the most boring case. Not really. Let's take a look at several cases of varying degrees of sophistication. Brush lettering animation is quite appropriate in all handwritten or italic type logos. There can be dozens of brushes generated, and each will have its own character. The same goes for letters. You can create additional motions for them, like these. It will make the animation lively straight away. If your lettering is more geometric, you can reveal it in the same way but without a brush, to maintain the original minimalistic design. For simple and minimalistic letterings, you can use standard transformations, like scale, position, rotation, etc. What can the text do? Well, it can be typed, for instance, or emerge letter by letter like this, or do it in a more dynamic way, or slide out from behind the mask like this, or be animated in a couple of frames like this. There are dozens of ways to reveal letters. Pick the one that will look more appropriate. Here's an example of a boring logo for a glasses store. But if we add letter spacing tracking animation, scale, and blur here, we'll get a brief but quite an appropriate example. In general, you can make a lot of things with fonts. Just be observant and try to experiment as much as possible. And one more thing. If your logo has small letterings like here or here, there's no sense in investing too much time and effort in them. You can always display them from behind the mask, and no one will judge you. Better pay attention to medium and large details. Talking about logo animation, clients sometimes imagine a scene where there's a bunch of things animated and the graphics is presented literally. Here are some examples of such works. Here's how it usually happens in real life. A client comes to you. For example, let it be a cinema. The task is to animate the reveal of a logo, which will consist of several movies one can see in the cinema. An amateur will start thinking the following way. The main thing in a movie is its characters and recognizable situations that help identify it. Let's start with character design. And if you are not a professional illustrator, you might get something like this. A professional will try to elicit something unique and compact from each movie. Something he or she can easily portray and not screw up. A thing like this comes as a result. The literal display of a product is the most tempting, yet dangerous way, because it is obvious. But everything looks fine as long as it's in your head. You see a product, portray it, and turn it into a logo. In reality, you will have to address such questions. How to make the graphics stylistically appropriate to the logo? Which people to portray, and what is the best way to do this? How to turn graphics into a logo in an elegant way? And then 5 more of the kind. If this is a commercial project and you haven't been provided with specific requirements and a scenario, think it over several times. Otherwise, it may result in this. To avoid such situations, remember that the original design is sacred. You can have only 2 reasons to add something to a logo when animating it. The task requires it, and you are a professional graphic designer or illustrator, confident in your sense of beauty. This is your personal project, and you are the only person responsible for it. In other cases, stick to simple morphs, movement lines, and distortions of original forms. I hope I didn't scare you too much. But if you are confident in your skills or you have a professional illustrator by your side, you can do things like this. Or like this. In general, it's a cool thing, but don't try it without preparation. If you are not pressured by any responsibility, there is nothing to even think about. The greatest type of plot is free comic interpretation. Here you can and should do what you like. The first thing to reckon with is your personal goals. I usually keep an animation wish list with some techniques I want to use in a project. Here is a part of it. All in all, a plan usually looks like this. You study the logo, the subject, and the task. Then you think about how you could make it cute and funny. In the meantime, figure out which of the techniques from your list is ideal for this plot. In short, having such a list is a cool thing. Make sure you implement your animation wishes as often as possible. I rarely do something for myself. Most often I have to study or try something new already in real projects. But good boys don't do that. Home assignment. As you can see, there is no secret in plots for logo animation. But there are a lot of limitations and conditions you should take into account before starting. In your homework, I suggest you try to compose 2 plots. The first is serious, as if for a real company. No extra graphics, nice and neat. In the second one, try to make fun of the company. Create something funny about it. Here's an example of 2 options for animating the NASA logo. If you are capable of implementing this idea now, do it. If it is still difficult, describe it or try to sketch out a storyboard. You can compile it into an animation to make it more visual. Another task is to make your list of tricks or techniques you would like to master and practice. You'll find it useful later. You can send it to us via the forum in the lesson description. We'll read everything and take it into account when planning additions to the course. Good luck!